Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Shea. Thanks for taking my calls and answering my emails. You've been so responsive. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay, so you sent me quite a lot of stuff to look through and listen to. But all good in terms of lots of material there for us to work on and to look at ways of how you can improve your success rate. Okay, I have some questions, I have some conclusions, but I want to hear a little bit from you because since the last time we spoke and now, I think you've had a little bit of time to put some of the suggestions I made to you previously in place, and also hopefully picked up a few things on the video. I did put out a video specifically for you to help you with your cold calls. So tell me, since the last time we spoke, where are you now with the cold calls specifically?
So I'm doing a little more cold calling. The idea is always to get an appointment. So to get past the first to get the appointment. I am by nature pretty chatty and connecting. So I'm using your fresh idea to really be me and connect with folks, and to look at, if they're willing to talk to me, to ask a few more questions, because I don't always know a whole lot about the businesses. So that has changed. I feel like I've got a foothold when I call them back because they're on a rotation. Then the other piece is I've really been asking the gatekeeper. There's one thing that you said that caught my eye was, I imagine you already have a supplier for this. And in my calls, it would be, I imagine you already have a supplier for this. When does the bid come back up? When do you need a new estimate? What does that look like? So then I have some timing for when to call back. And then with the coaching, when I'm talking to the gatekeeper, I am asking those questions. Do you already have a coach? Are you already working with somebody like that? Not to try and sell them on it, but just to get a feel for, as you said, is this worth a lot more time and energy to go back and talk to them?
Perfect. Okay. Absolutely crucial to understand the value of the prospects that you're going after, because your time is valuable. You only have so much time to make so many calls. How many calls are you making a day at the moment, roughly?
So it depends on the day, but I'm averaging about 300 a week.
Okay.
So so I have a meeting day, but I'm averaging about 300 a week. I'd like to hit 500 a week.
Why?
That's the last video that I watched of yours, is maybe that's not even necessary. So that's what I'm gauging, is how to, I need so many cold calls to get to the people to start with, but should I be investing more in the ones that seem a little more interested or spending more time with them?
Okay, so here's the reason I asked why. What is it do you want? You want more conversions or you want more time?
It's a good question. So I work for I'm a freelance. I work for two different organizations. One, I need to get more appointments for those people. So I don't need to
you want
spend
more
time.
conversions.
Right, more conversions. The other one, where I'm actually selling, I probably need more time.
Okay. So it all starts from the beginning. The beginning is that you're telling me that you're making around 300, but you'd like to make 500 calls. Okay, let me tell you something. If you think you need to make more calls, your conversion rate isn't good enough.
Got it.
Okay, which means, what's the easiest thing to do? Put more time in the day to make more calls, or is it easier to just shape up the way you're calling and make those calls more quality and increase your conversion rate?
I'd rather increase my conversion rate, because you and I both know cold calling can be very draining.
Yeah, and it will begin to show when you're making 300 calls and you're sat there and you're thinking, I have to make another one, I have to make another one, I have to make another one. You will become robotic, you will become monotonous, and you will drain yourself of energy, and it will show, it will come across. You said to me earlier that I feel like my energy levels aren't where they could be to reflect who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because the ones you're listening to are about the 100th call you've made that day.
Well, and that's not really the design, is I'm a closer. I still am questioning how I got in this cold calling routine, but part of it is the leads that we're bringing in are not as quality as they could be. So we're searching for more leads too.
Okay. So you said the word quality, you're absolutely bang on. I mean, the reality is you don't want to go from 300 calls to 500 calls. What you want to do is make 300 calls and get more out of them.
Correct.
Yeah. So
or make
that's
200 calls and get more out of them.
right. Now you're getting it. So that's the realistic goal. And that is a doable part of cold calling. When people keep saying to me, how many calls should I be making? I'm saying to them, that's not the question you should be asking me. What you should be asking me is, how many of my calls should I be converting? Okay. That is the poignant question, and that's the question that's going to make you better. Aim for that best conversion rate you can possibly get based on what you know. But every time you're measuring, people measure on the wrong numbers. They measure on how many rather than how well that went and what the result of that was. And that's the conversion. And until you understand conversion rates, you're just going to kill yourself hammering the phone, and you're literally going to hammer the phone.
Yes.
and it is what it sounds like, hammering. So you will lose your pizzazz, you'll lose your energy levels, you'll lose that fresh that you referred to earlier, and we don't want to do that. So as far as your calls are concerned, this is, you have to do all the things that we spoke about before, which is understand exactly the kinds of questions you need to ask, have those questions prepared, ask the questions even if the decision maker isn't there, qualify it to the point where you understand, is this worth my time to come back to? And, it's not a black and white assessment either. It's very much a scaled assessment, all right? High priority to low priority. Have a look at it, put a scale on it, and give it, I don't know, give it a 1 to 10 if you like. Use your own scale. This is a priority 10. And if 10 to you is, okay, that means this one is going to be a great opportunity because it ticks all the boxes, right, for you to sell to. That's a 10 priority. That means that one's on your list every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where it's like a 6 or a 5 priority, that could be you do it at, you chase at half the rate that we just spoke about. So it's really just a case of understanding what level of priority the customer or the potential customer is, based on what how well you've qualified it, and the return in your time that's going to give you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Your time is an investment. It's just as valuable as money. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Think of every hour you put in as a lump sum of money you're putting in. And if you're not getting anything back from that investment, then why are you chasing your tail?
That's a good question. Sometimes because I've run out of leads. I'm like, okay, we've got to go back and hit these guys again.
Okay. And if you're running out of leads, and you've got to go back to the video that I've just recently put out for you, which was the one where you need to clarify all these things with your supplier or your contractor straight away, or the person that's contracting you.
Yes.
Okay. And understand exactly how to get to you should be asking them, what are your current conversion rates? Yeah. What are we looking at, so that you have an idea of how much time you're investing into that particular company is your time. Yeah. Self-employed, your time.
It is my time. And they're used to webinar conversion, in-person conference conversion. So they're hitting 80% with that, but an on the phone conversion, nowhere near that. Nowhere near it. More at, I had 2 calls last week and converted at 50%. But to get to those 2 calls, we've got 300 cold calls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So this is where you've got to think, to get to the number of those cold calls converted to leads, you need to tighten that up yourself, because they may be able to afford people to sit there and get on a dialer and call hundreds and hundreds of people just to get a few leads, but you don't have that time.
No, I don't. You're nailing it. That is exactly what I want to get out of. Because although I can do cold calling, it's like going to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do it. Not my favorite thing.
Okay. But you want to see a result, don't you?
I do. I want to see a result and I want to see bigger wins. And since I've been listening to you, I've seen some bigger wins when I've returned to being me rather than following a formula or script or something like that. But they've got to get bigger.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So long as you understand that, the gym analogy is great. Just on that gym analogy, just think about it. If you go to the gym and you just walk on the treadmill rather than run on the treadmill, it might not have the same effect. Okay. So that's where I would go with your cold calls. Did you have any challenges between now and then on a cold call?
I still find the gatekeeper, I'm getting chattier with the gatekeepers, but I still find them really difficult. And then cold calls and closings, not right now. Not ready right now. It seems to be I seem to put out that vibe of non-urgency. Like, what do I need to shift to have that?
Okay. I'm I'm so glad you've said that. Okay, because that's exactly what I saw through listening to, well, what I heard through listening to you and what I saw on your video calls, is you tend to pass over control of the close to the other person. You're really nice. Okay. You're a really, really nice person. And, despite what people say about sales, you can't be nice. You can be a really nice person. But what's the missing for you is the sting. All right. You can be really nice, gentle, soft, a pleasure to talk to, really friendly, all of those things that you are. But you also have to have some killer questions and you have to have the mindset to close it down. All right. And you need to maintain control. The thing is, you're giving the control away as well by being too nice.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, you could argue you can't be too nice, but what I mean by that is you're not taking control of the situation. And I can give you some examples as we go through. You say things like, do you want me to send you something? Right, rather than do you want to sign it right now, or would you rather I sent you something? Why are you giving them the option? Sign them up.
Okay.
Right. You've been talking to them for like 20 minutes.
At least.
Yeah, at least. Okay. And right at the end of all of that time, you're going, here you go. If you want to, you can. If you don't, it's okay. No, it's not okay. All right. So I just need you to maintain that control a little bit. And I want you to think about different ways of closing. And your closing has got to be very simple. Okay, so we spent all this time having a chat. Mr. Customer, I said at the end of this conversation, we need to come to a conclusion. I think you should come to the conference. Let me sign you up right now.
Okay.
All right. You're not asking them for money. You're just signing them up. It's no big deal. Okay.
Oh, they pay for the conference, so I am.
Good. How much do they pay?
It's cheap. It's $497 US.
It's probably pocket change for a lot of people that you're speaking to.
For a lot of those folks, it can be. It's the travel expense that's more. It's the time. So that's what I'm finding out with the people who I really want as clients. This is a time issue, not a money issue.
Okay, so you said you've used the word want a couple of times, and this is the thing that I noticed on your call with Terrell Franklin.
Okay.
All right. He said a few times, I really do want this. I really do want this. Okay, you don't want him to want it, you want him to need it.
Okay.
Right. So if he just wants it, what he's hearing is he's hearing the nice to have element of what you have. He's not really getting the real value and return in investment that he's going to get. So he's not seeing what the results are going to be. Okay. So there's some questions I'm going to give you that I think you should, at the end of this little session, that I'm going to give to you to start using in all your calls to help you close more effectively.
Okay.
All right. So, tell me, so cold calls, we got the gatekeeper. You've just got to use those questions and do the things we said. Coming into the videos, which I've already started to do here, we started with a great one with the pink sweatshirt. The guy with the
Yeah, so I thought I had him. I sent that video to my company. I said, I think this one is already closed. Give me some feedback on that. Could not get him back on the phone.
Okay, why do you think that was?
Well, I think there's some family dynamics because it's his wife and his sister-in-law. I don't think I had all the decision makers on the phone.
Right.
I don't think he was willing to make a decision without them. And then maybe he talked to him, maybe he didn't, but he just drifted off.
Okay, great. So this is it again, you've noted it yourself. You didn't have all the decision makers on the call. That was crucial during that call. I noticed that he, it's somewhere in the middle of the call, he threw that in, and you almost sounded like, oh, right, okay. And it was almost a case of, if it was me, I probably would have stopped right there and said, okay, we can't go any further with this conversation unless we have everybody who's going to be involved in the decision, everybody who's going to be impacted by this investment on the call. Do you agree? And he probably would have said yes. So at that point, why are you wasting your time anymore? Get off the call, reschedule it right there and then, and get everybody on the call.
So I do sometimes, this one was not as well thought through, sometimes ask, are you able to make the decision on your own, or are there other people who should be here at the table?
Well, that should be done early on. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That should have been done in the qualifying process part of this. I don't know if that was a lead that was handed to you or if it was a lead you generated yourself.
It was a lead. So I used to have a call center. It was a lead that was booked for me. So I just show up. And this has been a hot question for me. Sometimes these are scouting sessions. So I don't expect to always close in a single call. Sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 calls and an email and some other things involved in that. For them, I think this was a scouting session, and I believe I did try and set up a meeting with him and the 2 other folks. That never came through.
Okay. Did you get a date right there and then?
I had a date on the calendar. I had it set up. He either, I can't remember, it's been some months. He either canceled or they didn't, or they no-showed me. I can't remember. I was having a lot of trouble with no-shows too.
Okay. So this is about how well it's qualified in the first place. Perhaps the leads that you're getting through where they're obviously not being qualified as well as they need to be qualified. There's 2 things you can do. One, you need to feed back to the business that are passing you these leads, and you need to tell them what you need to know before they pass them to you. Otherwise, you can't do your job. Okay, so you need to, it's like, how am I? Well, it's like, having a carpenter go out without his saw. All right, you can't be expected to bring in the business if you don't have fully qualified leads. So you need that first and foremost. Otherwise, you're wasting your time with half of these people.
Yes, and that's why I appreciated the freelance video, because as I am a freelancer, as I take on other work, I'm refining. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? On whether I'm going to work for them or not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'm making calls, and when I was making calls to get a business myself, I would go through a tick box list, of questions that I needed, qualifiers that I needed to understand. And through doing that, through working through that process, that's how I managed to land. The contracts I landed were big ones. This was during the first credit crunch in 2008. This is how I did it. It's by sifting out the ones I knew were going to waste my time. And the only way I knew that was by asking the right questions. And then I was able to secure business pretty quickly and then grow those accounts from within. And sometimes you don't need everything. You just need some of the best stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's all it is. So I think that's really key. So with that one there, that one you could I would personally have just stopped at that point and said, right, I'm not going to go any further with this. Because the other reason I would imagine he didn't come back is because you kind of gave him the brochure of products and service that you had. And he was now going to go and try and sell that, but he's selling it secondhand to the other people. Right? He's not you. He's not the salesperson for that company, for that product. He's not the expert in that product. He is basically, it's a Chinese whispers thing. He's going to have used whatever he heard from you, however he heard that, and whatever his understanding of your services, and he's going to pass that on to the other people, and they're going to go, no, it doesn't quite fit what we want. And there's going to be lots of information missing in that.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So from that, their decision is, okay, let's put it on the shelf. Right?
So I'm winning when I say, oh, it sounds like you would need all these people to make the decision. So let's set up another time. Doesn't seem like it's worthwhile for you or for me to continue without doing this. So I'm winning, even if he bails on the next time, I'm winning because I'm not wasting my time.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly. And this is where people mistake this whole business of cold calling for, no, but I've got to stay on the call and I've got to keep hammering this. But why? You're not going to get an answer. Why are you wasting another 20, 30, 40 minutes speaking to somebody who's not going to give you an answer at the end of it?
Right.
Yeah. Go spend that time with somebody else who might be in between meetings right now, but might be your ideal candidate as potential business. Yeah. So go find the other one.
And that's just it, is having somebody to talk to let go of that idea that I need somebody to talk to. I can tell you who the ideal is. He was ideal in the style of business. He was ideal in the money, but he was not ideal in that he was not the driver. You could tell by talking to him that it was his wife and the sister-in-law that were the drivers.
Right. So the potential was still there. It wasn't so much that there's no potential there. It was more the fact that you didn't have the right people in front of you, and you continued the call to give him all the ammunition he needed to go away and say, what do you think?
Okay.
You can't do that. You don't want them to sell on your behalf, because if it was that easy, they wouldn't need you in between, would they?
No, they wouldn't. So leaving the mystery in there, not leaving him with everything. Now, so he's still on my list. Would you have sent, hey, I found this for you, or hey, this video might be applicable to your situation, to just keep feeding him pieces?
Now? No, you look, how many times have you called him?
I probably got 3 more in.
3 more. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you've called him 3 times and not got anything.
Mm-mm.
Emailed?
With a call comes an email. Yeah.
Okay. Is he on LinkedIn?
I haven't checked, but I can.
Okay. You can get, you've spoken to this person, you've emailed this person, you're not getting a response. The third dimension would be social media. Try LinkedIn. And I would do like trifold, but I think the key thing now is the content of what you say. All right. So at this stage, I would be saying, hey, I have tried to contact you. The fact that you're not coming back to me suggests that you don't want to pursue this, but for my information only, it would really help to get some feedback from you as to what made you come to that decision.
Okay.
Right. You could even go as cheeky as saying, help me write you off.
Help me, I don't want to drive you crazy. Help me pull you off my list. What does that,
Yeah, I used to say things like, look, I'm not going to stop stalking you till you tell me why. But I would say things like that because, that's my character. and I could get away with it because they know that, you know, I'm an assertive salesperson. I'm talking to a director who's also in that same game. They understand it. They understand the language. So, you know, make sure whoever it is you're talking to understands the language as well. Might be a little bit more difficult if you're speaking to a HR person in that way. But yeah, you know, read the room, so to say. Okay.
Yes,
Happy with that?
I have a quick question. So I met with these folks at conference in February. So I spent a lot of time. I've been following them on social media, what they said, their school, and what they said is, we think we want to do this. We are not ready until the school turn happens. Please contact us in May because that will happen in June. Great. So I've been maintaining contact, you know, doing the social media thing. How do
Give me the name. That was I think I saw that one. Was that the husband and wife business?
Yes, the blonde. And she's very direct. She's very talented at what she does. She's very direct.
Yeah, I got them. What's their name again? You forgot?
I'd really have to go back and look at it.
Okay, that's fine.
Is it Angie and Andy? Angie and Adam?
Angela rings a bell. Angie Taylor, got it.
Yeah, and Adam.
Angie
Yeah.
Taylor. Okay, so lovely people. Really nice, positive, very sharp, focused, know what they want. Built an amazing business in a short space of time. Pretty impressive, and hit on something that's almost, you know, hits the heartstrings as well as the mind. So a very sought after, you know, potentially sought after service. So, okay, so I saw the call. You met with them at the conference.
I spent a lot of time on them at the conference because they train children of entrepreneurs. We're an organization that's both Christian and entrepreneurs. The fit is like this. They're a little out of our scope on what we normally do, but the tenets are perfect to work with what they've got going. Spent a lot of time with them, multiple conversations, and they just kept pushing me off.
Okay. Why do you think they were pushing you off?
Verbally, what I got was, we're in a transition right now. We don't do these things until our school year comes up. This is the way our policies work. We can't transition this many people globally right now. So we'll think about it again in June.
Okay. So you have a scheduled meeting for June?
I do not have a scheduled meeting for June, but I bet I could get one.
Okay.
The question is, what am I going to say? They've been to the conference. They've seen everything. What do I'm at the point of, you either want it or you don't.
All right. So, but that June is the time to ask that question.
And do I ask it like that? I mean, she's super direct. I've spent enough time with her.
Okay. The content of the time that you spend with somebody is it doesn't mean anything unless the content of what you say in the time that you spend with them has some value to them.
Okay.
If it has value to you,
who cares?
Yes, right? They don't. But it's got to have value to them. Now, when they said we'd be more open to discussing this in June, okay, that was the point at which you get your diary out, you put a date in and say, right, let's discuss it in June. There's no point trying to push it with people who know where they are, know where they're going, and know their policies and know when they're ready to buy. If they are not ready to buy because there are procedures in place that inhibit their ability to move forward, you've got to respect that. Okay.
How do you know the difference? I mean, there are people with her, I completely agree, having spent that much time with her, but there are other people that you're like, is it a value issue? Are you blowing me off? What, you know, how do you, this group in particular, they did know, they were standing firm. We had enough conversation. Yes. But there are others who just one little slight, what are you going to do if you don't do this?
You
You
are?
might
Yeah.
push them over the edge.
Right. So it's the questions you ask, isn't it? What did you just ask me then? What are you going to do if you don't do this?
Yeah.
So do you ask that?
Often.
Often.
Not always.
So when they say not yet, you don't ask them?
Sometimes one of the things that I've been doing is going back through, okay, so you told me that you're afraid to sell more because you don't have the employees that you need to provide the excellence in service, which means that target of 300,000 at the end of the year, and you're only at 75, and you're in second quarter. How are you planning on getting there if you don't figure out this loop between sales and service? Walk me through that. I would go that way first. Is that too much verbiage? It's probably too much verbiage.
No. What that business language, that business conversation that you're having now here on this call is great. I didn't see enough of that on the video calls that I was watching.
So you didn't see enough of taking the lead
and challenging.
And challenging it. I'm afraid of that because I'm an extremely challenging person. So I'm afraid to do too much of it.
Yeah, but I am getting that, because on the videos what I'm getting is somebody who's being awfully polite, okay, and you're being very reactive to whatever they're saying. The word awesome comes up a lot. You're super positive. Your words are super positive about what they're doing, and that's great. However, you need some more substance behind your responses, not just that's great, that's amazing, that's awesome. That's what I'm hearing. Where's the substance? Where's the business response to that? That's what's missing, okay? So there are here, I put it down here, there's responses are that's awesome. It sounds like you might be thinking about the next thing to say. If you need to, then pre-jot some questions. But there's another thing that you perhaps could do to fill those. Silence isn't a bad thing, but it is if there's no business follow-up, right? So, for example, when you say that's awesome, that's amazing, what's missing then is, and I said the killer questions. Then what would be great to hear is a killer question that follows that. All right. Okay. Like, okay, so that's great. And how do you know you can do this? Yeah. Well, because da 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 da. Okay, that's great. So, and where do you see yourself in the business? So every time you come back with that's great, that's wonderful, and you're praising them for what they're doing because you are a nice person. I just need you to add a bit of a question with not a bit, but a question, a good question with some substance behind it. And I'm going to give you some that tells them that you are absolutely listening, you are absolutely on the same page as them, and you understand their business. Okay. When I was listening to some of this, I would have to question, does she really understand what they're talking about here? And that's only through your responses. And that's what I got from their facial, their body language is she following us? I'll give you a really good example. There was something about you needing the couple that we just spoke about, Angie, wanting a business mind. You said, so you want a business mind. But she did just explain that actually she brought her husband in because he's the business mind. And he came in and said, no, she was referring to me. I'm the business mind. So when that happens, you have to question, okay, I'm obviously not breaking this down enough to show them that I understand. Right? If they talk a lot, break it down.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Repeat it, check your understanding, and then ask a good question. That's amazing. She is, she's done an amazing job. She is a very creative, she said she's more the creative thinker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's amazing because she has, you know, the goals, the strategy, but she needs the business mind to implement all of that, and that's great. So they're a dynamic duo, works amazingly. So you
Yes.
are the dynamic duo. What they wanted, well, let me ask you, what did they want? Did you get from all of that what was really important to them?
What was really important to them was to set up a structure that could be followed by everyone in their organization. So that what we do is we provide systems and structures. And what I got from her was she really wants global domination. I mean, she's going for expansion. How do I get this out there as much as possible? And I know that one person can't do it. So I need a structure that can be replicated, and we're all having this consistent replication of what our motto is, who we serve, how we do this, and that makes hiring people even easier. That's part of what they were looking for.
Right, good. So the kind of questions that were things like branding, you know, where are you on branding, hiring, recruiting, structure, organizational structure, all of those are the kind of things. What I got from them is their key thing is they want to scale the business. It was as simple as that. They are after scaling that business because they know it is scalable. All right. They have a scalable business. All they need is some structure, as you quite rightly said, some structure in place that can help them to go from there to there, because that jump there is far higher than all the other jumps that they've made so far.
Yes, that's exactly what they were looking for. And what you didn't see, maybe I talked about it at the end. I have read the books by the people that they are associated with who are silent partners. They're multiple millionaires and they have been able to scale. So I kind of questioned why they were coming to us and not who they considered their business partners.
Did you ask them that?
Not directly. I danced around it for a little bit.
Okay. Ask it. You have to eliminate all doubt. It's like being in a courtroom. Okay. It's like you've got to eliminate pre-eliminate any doubts that they might have. At the end, you referred them to books. Is that right? There was some books that you referred them to. You don't, I mean, that for me is a no. Don't send them to book, because if they could get the answer in a book, then why are they coming to you? So, you know, like you said, they already have partners who have books, and, you know, their body language to me would say, okay, I'm not so sure where we're going with this now. So I would refrain from that. But yes, the question that you just said right there, you've got to ask them. Otherwise, you don't know. You cannot assume, you cannot guess. You've got to ask them, because what can you lose by asking a question like that?
I did ask him, having watched material and read the books by this other couple, I said, do they need to be involved in this decision making? And she said, no, that's not part of. So I think they're funding, but I don't think they're actually, I don't know. You're right. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you can, and you're not the only salesperson to do that. Don't worry. A lot, I would go as far as saying probably the close to 100% of salespeople will make some assumptions and will make some guesswork because they feel uncomfortable asking a question, which is a perfectly legitimate question. And the only thing you'll get from the other person from that is, one, the truth, secondly, respect, and thirdly, they will understand that you understand. All right. So there is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with asking a question like that. Like, you know, okay, so why have you come to us when you've got these resources? Well, then they'll tell you exactly what they want from you. And that's what you then jump on top of. And that's what you build value on top of, not the other bits and pieces that you sell, the bits that are directly relevant to what they said they think they can get from you that they can't get from somewhere else. Okay.
Got it.
Good. I mean, you have a lot of potential. Your attitude's great. Everything's there. There's just, these are tweaks. These are just tweaks.
I don't want potential. I want closes.
Good. Okay, well, that's good. That's very good. Okay. Let's go on to Terrell Franklin. Oh, just give me an idea. I wrote something here. Where does your energy level start and where does it end? If you could draw a graph, what would it look like?
Meaning time of day or connection with people?
Sorry,
or
each call. A call.
If I could
your calls are about what, 40, 45 minutes?
Yeah, so I've been extending them because this month I've been closing by staying longer and pausing more. So my energy, I try and come in and read them and come in where they are, right? So if they're already up here, I can go up there really quick. That's easy for me. The coming down for the person who wants lots of charts and graphs and talks slowly. That's hard. I struggle with that. So, and then I'm going to get excited if I feel like we're connecting, I'm going to get excited more in the middle. And then if I feel like I'm losing them, I'm probably going to dip a little bit, but I may try and artificially raise it to hold it in there.
Okay, good. Where ideally would you like it to be throughout the call?
If I had my druthers, it would be more of kind of that coffee conversation of this is good, glad you called, let's do this, and this, because I don't want to be drained at the end of the day either,
Yeah.
And I will match the high energy ones, but it's more of, yeah, I got some stuff to offer. I don't want to sell you a pen if you don't need a pen, but let's talk about what you need and let's figure out if there's a connection here.
Yeah, great. Okay. So just what I would say is stick to your energy level that you have and maintain consistency. That's the key. It's consistent energy level. So if you're really pumping yourself up to a high level, you will naturally come down. There is nothing you can do about that. It will just happen because we're human beings. And when you feel you're talking a lot, because you're pumped up, you might be talking a lot, it's going to start coming down. So you need to keep it at a consistent level, and you've got to break down your conversation so you're getting enough of a two-way conversation. If they're talking a lot, break it down, understand it, let them carry on. Yeah. But all the time, I need to start thinking about what do they want? What do they want from this? What do they really want from this service? And that's what you've got to find out, because that is the golden nugget upon which you can start building your product and service to the point where they see that they need it, not just want it.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Business, the coaching and the service that you're actually selling is one of those things where a lot of people, because I'm in coaching and development, and I know a lot of people will see it as a nice to have. The only way you can sell it is by showing that no, you need this. Because if you don't have this, you're not going to be able to get to where you want to get to.
Or you've been here for 15 years and now you've set a new target. What's your roadmap for getting to the new target? Because you've been here for 15 years. How are you going to change that?
Right. Okay. So remember, a lot of these people are open to it. It's just about maintaining that level of interest they have, but then taking it to the next level by just giving them the platform to sell it to themselves. And to sell it to themselves, you've got to ask them certain questions. Let's go to Terrell Franklin very quickly. I'm just gonna, the banker stepped in here to squash his desire to come with you. I think on the services, he said his banker said no, they wanted to buy another dumpster instead and move like that. Okay, so that's fine. if it's a case of he has no money, but where I would have gone with that one quite simply would have been, okay, so you've got the dumpster now. When does that transaction go through? When are you going to see a return on it? And what are you going to do with that money that you get as a return on it?
Oh, that would have been great.
Okay. So, and here's a suggestion. Why don't you invest it so that we manage now your extra number of whatever dumpsters that you have, so that going forward you can get more, but you can scale this business and grow exponentially rather than slowly waiting for your monies to come in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I would have said to him. Now, here are a few questions for you as we wrap up this session. Let me just... So for you specifically, I want you to remember at the end of the call to close it. Just don't let go of that control. Okay. Be like Gollum and the ring. Okay.
My precious.
Yes, don't let it go. I'm like that with remote controls. Don't let it go. Okay. You have to keep the control of the flow of where that sales process is going. If it's another call, you make that, you dictate when, how, who's going to be on it, etc. Ideally what you want is you want a sale, you want signatures, you need next step, whatever the next step naturally is in the process for that particular customer, because I know it varies according to customer and customer type. Then understand what your next step is and go for that as the close. Don't give them a choice. It is a simple question of, right, this is the next step, when can we do it? Okay.
And if I've decided they are not my client, then what I normally do is say, hey, let me send you some videos or some materials and see what you think of those. I don't ask for anything else because they're not my client. I've already determined that.
Okay, and what's that based on?
Either they don't have, so it's a 3, 3, and 3 for this company. They need to be making around 300,000. They need to have three employees and 3 years in business. If they don't hit those markers, I've got a couple downsells, but if they don't hit those markers, it's not really worth my time to spend a lot more time with them.
Well, actually, you shouldn't have spent any time with them at all then, because those 3 things should have been qualified pre your call.
I hear you.
Okay, you need to go back to your contracting companies and just have a word with them about those things that I said before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question which you did is on my list, but I did hear you ask it a couple of times actually, if not every time, was why Howard?
Yeah.
Okay, why did you come to us? That's a really good question. Another question that you just mentioned on this call, actually, and I thought, oh, you didn't say that on the calls. That would have been a good one. That is, what happens if you don't have this service?
What happens if you don't?
Yeah. Okay. The other question is on the back of that is, what do you see happening if you invest in this?
Oh.
Okay,
Got it.
because remember, you want them to sell it to themselves. Another thing you've got to really identify with each of your questions and really get good at this is identify what is of most value to them. What are they going to get from this? What it ties in with why they're here. You say why, and they'll tell you, and you say, okay, so what's the key? If you could give me 3 top value returns that you'd get out of this, what would they be? Okay, and hone in on those, because they've given you your selling points.
And you would do that after they've kind of gone through what, because the opening to me is I'm setting the stage, this is what we're going to do, but then I want to hear what they think of their business. And so then you would say, what is the key? What are the top 3 things, returns you would like from a program like this?
Well, I mean, you started your calls great. You would ask them about their business and understand their business, and that's great. And whilst you're understanding that business, that's where you throw in these killer questions. You know, when I said understand it, show them you've understood it, throw in a killer question. These are your questions that you throw in as you're understanding their business. And what you should be doing then is making a note of all of those things, because that's your ammunition to work on.
Okay.
All right. That's what you've got to build your presentation on. It doesn't matter how many 50, 100 things the presentation's got on it. If there's only 3 of those things that are relevant to them, that's what you hone in on. Okay. And the other thing is, okay, so where do you see yourself in the business? Which I did see you asking, and I think that one was with Colin, who seems to understand exactly where he wants to be. He is a strategist. He understands that. He is a leader. He understands that completely. All he wants is structure and management under him who can implement everything that he wants. And that slide you went to when you were talking to him about that, almost the sort of chart of organization, who does what, like the project management one. That was a really great one to hone in on and really work on a little bit more. That's where I would, really bleed that a little bit more. And that, okay, managers, do you know how many managers you see? Do you know what their roles will be? What their key performance indicators? These are all things you've got to throw these things in the mix to show them that there is so much they don't know.
That's it. I'm almost making them feel too good. I've noticed that I'm almost making them feel too, yeah, we're okay.
Yeah.
No, you're not okay.
Yeah, because what you're conscious of, what I'm seeing that you're really conscious of, is not losing them as a person, as a human being. You won't lose them as a person, a human being. Okay, so don't be worried about that, because you're a nice person, you're personable. Okay, and they're coming to you because they want to speak to you about the business. So you don't have to big them up. You don't have to stroke their egos. All you have to do is be on a level with them and have the discussion with them, in the same way as the coach would have a discussion with them. Okay. Right. That brings us to the end of our hour.
Much appreciated. So focus on.
Lots to think about.
Yes, lots to think about. But what I'm taking away is focus on less of the fluff words, saying them, but moving that question in there. And then, of course, I'm taking the dog for the walk, not them taking me for a walk. So I need to ask.
Some great analogies there. Yeah. Yeah. Again, another really good analogy.
So they
Look,
can go sniff wherever they want, but I need to close it out and say, this is what we are doing next.
Yeah. Perfect. So here's a tip. I want you to think about this overnight now. Don't try and do too much with it today. Let it fester, let it go, let your brain digest it, because your brain has this amazing ability to work on things while you're not even subconsciously, while you're doing other stuff. And then tomorrow, give yourself an hour or half an hour, however long you need, to reorganize everything that we've spoken about and put a list of priority in terms of what actions you want to implement. And then start to implement them, but implement them at intervals. So you implement 1 or maybe 2 things in the first week. You could implement a third in the next 3 days, etc., depending on how relevant it is, and how realistic it is for you to apply it in what timescales you have set for yourself. Okay, so just set some smart objectives for yourself around those actions. Okay. I am here. You can contact me anytime if you get mumbled or jumbled with all of that, because there's a lot, but you'll be able to give your brain the time. It'll whittle it down and start to classify those learnings. Yeah.
Great. This was super helpful, Shea. I really appreciate it. I'd love to take advantage of this more. Maybe we could work out a contract. My accountant is sitting on me right now, but when closes start coming in, then I have more wiggle room.
Well, look, that's the key. That's what you got to do. That's what you sell, don't you? Right. So you're giving me one of those objections that you get.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So I'm going to say to you, can you afford not to do it?
I think I've got a bigger problem that the leads are not there. And it's been that way for almost a year now. So I have contemplated looking for more work. And now that I know more, reevaluating how to find that work. So I can't afford not to. On the other hand, the problem maybe, my husband's a salesperson too. He said the problem may be out of your scope. If you're not finding your own leads, then, and they're not handing you leads.
Well, they're not handing you properly. They're not handing you decent, qualified leads. That's the key. It's the quality of those leads that you need to challenge them on. But I gave you that as a tip before, and I'll say it again. Go back, challenge them. Okay, challenge them. If it doesn't work, move on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your time is worth a lot.
It is. It is. And see, it got better December, January, February, and then it went. I'm like, mm-mm.
And just to finish that off, it'd be a hell of a, your time would be worth a hell of a lot more if you closed a hell of a lot more. So it's a vicious circle.
It is. It's the cycle that I talked to him about sales and hiring people. It's the same thing. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
It's been great talking to you again. And we'll catch up soon, yeah?
Yes, thank you.